everyone, and welcome to the Ranger Rob Country Living Podcast. And I'm your host, Rob Scribner, and Dale Wiley. How are you?
I'm doing well tonight, Ranger Rob. How are you?
Oh, not too bad, except I'm waiting for spring. Like, where
Yeah,
is it?
this has been a strange deal, and I mean, it's an interesting weather thing that we've had going on, but it's also been kind of educational from a, homesteading prepping point. We had to adapt a little bit here
Uh,
and everything to deal with the weather, but yeah, I'm real comfortable with how I dealt with it and how it all worked out. So we're out of this thing, I think, Sunday, Monday, and back to some more normal temperatures. So we can only hope.
yeah, it's like every morning I've woke up to snow. It's
Yeah.
like, and it like, I know I believe in, I come from the west side of the Washington when I grew up, and I understand April showers, but frozen showers is just not cutting it for me.
Had
Sorry.
good 3 inches this morning here and
I'm
everything. And
so
I have seen 3 times that amount in the same week in Central Oregon before.
wow. I guess I've been gone too long. Yeah, I'm just like enough already. It's like
Yeah,
I got plans, man, and I need to plant some stuff.
yeah, and I mean, and just like we visited about earlier, I'm running this little greenhouse operation. Greenhouses, if you're growing stuff on any kind of a large scale, you set yourself a schedule and you live and die by that schedule, and you have to adapt around to it. And we'd fully intended to have been transplanted and out of the bigger greenhouses by now, so stuff's starting to, yeah, we got to get some stuff planted.
Hey, Tanya from Faraway Farms is here. How are you?
Nice.
Good.
Where's she at?
I think she's in Klamath Falls area.
Oh, okay,
Is that
nice.
right? Where are you from, Tanya? Um, I don't know. I'm an old person. I can't remember nothing. But
What's your
yeah,
name?
she. Uh,
No,
don't confuse me.
oh, Lapine. Okay.
Was it?
It's
Oh,
down
is
the
it
road a
Pine?
ways.
I
Yeah.
knew she was south of us. And one of these days, I have to get her on the show. So that's one of the first things I want to talk about is people. If you're watching our show on a regular basis or once in a while, and if you're interested in actually being on our panel, just let us know. Now, we'll have to talk to you to kind of tell you what you can and can't talk about because of censorship and stuff like that. But if you're interested in our discussions and talking about some of the things you're interested in when it comes to growing, homesteading, prepping, those kind of things, we're just average people. Nobody's special. And
Yeah.
except Dale, he's kind of special. But um,
Yeah. It all depends on who you ask and which direction you want to take that definition.
it's like, so yeah, anytime. This is out to everybody. You're invited to contact us. Just contact me through my messaging under Ranger Rob or Rob Scribner, and we'll talk on the phone and just kind of brief you on what it's like to do a show and how it works. And it's actually a lot of fun. And
We, we have a
uh,
good time, and Roth hasn't kicked me off here yet. So, and I and I and I've managed to stay on Facebook longer than he has for a while here. So,
that's right. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, Tanya. I know. I think it was Tanya. I think it was talking to her about if she ever wanted to be on her show. I think it was her. And like I said, I talked to a lot of folks, but I'd love to have her on the show and just hear what she has to say and some of the things that she's working on. And I know she's got some similar projects. And anyway, so yeah, it would just be great to have her on the show. And but she's disappeared for a couple of weeks, and so glad to see her back. So yeah, and the next thing I want to talk about real quick, and then we'll go into regular stuff. I'm going to talk about a subject that's sensitive, and so I can only tell you about it and give you an idea. Maybe you're inquisitive enough to go check it out. But there's a new movie that came out. It's called. It's like I'm trying to do two things at the same time. It's called Watching the Water, and some people say it's conspiracy. Some people freak out and all that stuff. My take on it is it's interesting. And I come from a generation of opposing ideas is okay. We can actually have discussions and hear different sides. Once again, this is kind of against the COVID stuff. Anyway, this particular report and has come out, and it's called Watching the Water. And it's so sensitive that they can't actually even put it on YouTube. So what I did is in our description, there's a link under reference links. I'll take you right to the video, and I believe it's on Rumble. It's on some other platforms that aren't so sensitive. Anyway, I highly recommend people to listen to it. To me, it's very complex in a way of what could have be going on with what happened in the last 2 years. And so, but I just say, open your mind and put it, watch the report. It's about a 40-minute video, and it's some concepts that kind of make sense and may actually answer some questions we all had in the last 2 years of the results of what has happened with the CV stuff. And I'm abbreviating it on purpose. Anyway,
You already said it once, so it's gonna be.
well, you can say some of it.
Yeah.
There's like some of the medical stuff and some of the drugs that were involved are very sensitive words, and I don't want to use those. But
Yeah.
you can say that word once or twice, and you don't have any. But if you kind of say it like 5, 10 times in the same show, you could get flagged and demonetized, but not necessarily shut down or anything. But it is sensitive, and so that's why I don't do a lot of shows about that kind of subject. But anyway, it's called Watching the Water. In our description, there's a link to it. Go check it out and get another perspective on things. That's all I'm saying. It's another perspective, and so it's worth the watch. Yeah, it was. Yeah, see, Tanya says I'm not insane. She says, yeah, we did talk about this.
Oh.
It's not about this, but about having her on the show. And I thought it was her.
I think it was.
Yeah,
It was a couple 3 months ago.
yeah, and that's way too long for like people like me and Dale have to think back on.
I don't.
I don't
Yeah.
speak for yourself, right, Ryan?
No, I can't. Hell, I can't remember this morning what I had for breakfast this morning.
Oh, what did I have? You got a point. um, so yeah, we love to also have guests, but also I wanted to make sure that you check out a new idea, just a new idea, and called Watching the Water. So that's enough on that kind of stuff. Now, I told you this spring start thing is driving me nuts because it was really getting kind of nice for a couple of days, and I got spring fever, something fierce, especially when I was building those above ground things. So I planted a whole bunch of strawberries. Well, I'm not too sure. What I did is I got strawberry root design strawberries, and I planted them in our green room. Well, it's not, yeah, green room we call it. It's a growing room, and I've got lights and all that stuff, and it's controlled in there. It's like 60 to 70 degree, almost the same temperature as the house. And they started. The leaves were coming out, the little even flowers were coming out of my strawberries. So I had to move them out and put them outside, and I decided to put them in the above ground. And with all this terrible weather, we covered it up with a sheet and clipped it down. I haven't even looked under there because I'm not sure if those strawberries are very happy with me. Anyway, but out of panic, I did order more strawberries. So today I was outside freezing my patooties off, putting strawberries in planter boxes, the little 3-inch ones, to go back into the green room and start over again and get them leaved up and the whole works. And the target for those is for my growing towers outside. And hopefully it will be warm enough where they won't be shocked with consecutive freezing days. Strawberries can take cold weather, but if it's consecutive, it can be a little bit hard for them. Anyway, so that's what I did today. I was actually doing strawberries all morning, freezing to death in the cold wind, loading up these things, getting them all watered up, taking them back in the house and putting them in the growing room. So I'm keeping the faith. That's, that's all I can say. I'm trying to keep
Yeah,
the
you
faith.
know, the strawberries will take cold like that. All depends on, what state of culture and development that they're in. Obviously that's a challenge. We've had a challenge on this stuff, and I'm
Okay,
still not
shoot.
planting anything outside at all. Learned my lesson there and everything, and like you said, you got spring fever, and this high tech method of showing people things here. There's, yeah, there's one of the
Yeah, it's
benches.
looking good. That's much greener than because I did
Yeah,
a
and
video of your house.
that's doing real well. And so I mean, we've got just a little bit of everything going on there. And then we got some cilantro, and these are in these little peat pot things, and everything. Here's the one I like. These Here's my tomatoes, Rob.
That's awesome.
That, yeah, that's a 36 millimeter peat pot pulled out. Those are just about 3 weeks. Uh, since seeding and everything, learned a lot about those this year. But that's you can see by those roots, those things need to get planted out. They're going to go out into some 3.5 inch round pots, 4 inch round pots, and all. And this stuff's coming to a different stage. Seedlings is starting to use a lot of fertilizer and water and everything. So time to move them up. But I'm not going to fight that 20-degree temperature we got coming tonight. That's going to take
No.
two little buddies running at high capacity, probably to keep that house where it's going to need so everything survives. Um, that's that's trying to grow greenhouse crop in the high desert. Good luck.
Yeah, I also yesterday replanted my jet stars, my jet setters, and a bunch of purples, a bunch of tomato stuff from scratch again, and they're already coming up, and
Yeah,
they'll be transferring over to 3 inch pots pretty soon. But all the ones I did a month ago, they got really big, and then of course I couldn't take them anywhere, so they got root bound a little bit, and they're kind of dying off. So I grabbed a couple of really good, like a couple Cherokee purples and some unique ones, and I tried to revive them into bigger pots. So I maybe saved like 12 of them out of maybe 40 plants. And but I've started from scratch again on the tomatoes to try to make my June 1st target to get them into the greenhouse.
yeah,
Actually, my
you should be okay at that rate. Tomatoes, I'm gonna do a different little setup this next year. I use bottom heat to help me grow tomatoes
me
in the
too.
past, and that's an absolute requirement. I mean, the way I tried it this year, I was probably 7 days early, and I didn't have any bottom heat on them, and I probably didn't keep the house warm enough, and it definitely slowed the germination on those things down. So I'm going to invest in a couple of heat mats and everything, and rotate the tomato starts on and off of those. I've got some that are aged out. I've got some that are not even half the size of those other little ones. So, and thanks, Tanya. I appreciate that. Um, I I want the plants to come on at a decent time, but some of these are kind of some holdovers. tomatoes are tomatoes are weird. You know what I mean? I'm going into this thing, and I wanted 250, and I'm probably going to come out of it with 200. So, um, it's timing is everything. But me, I've done so much greenhouse work in my life and everything else that at some point in time, I just want to take everything out of the greenhouse and be done with it, not walk back in there again sometime until get everything outside growing in beds under time drip irrigation, and kind of let it take care of itself for a while. I forgot how much work these greenhouses were.
Tanya, I want to remind you, what's some of the big things going on right now with your area in Lapine? Lapine's a little higher elevation than we are, but they're not that far from us. But it'd be interesting to see what challenges you're having up there in Lapine right now. Love to say, Tanya also said, that's nice to have you back, Tanya.
And I
Um,
see now, Tanya, my basil sat there for almost 7, 8 days. I definitely know that needs some bottom heat and everything. And there again, I'm just an old nurseryman guy. We had greenhouse crops, and I've always, think, oh, I don't need this, I don't need that, and then, you know, years and years of doing it, I still Mother Nature shows me who's actually controls things, in this process, and that my manipulations don't mean a damn thing.
Yeah, Tanya, Dale's getting me convinced to take some plants into our farmers market we have here on Crooked River Ranch. It's like, so that should be humorous that um, with especially both me and Dale at the market, they're all going to go, "Oh my gosh, not these guys!"
Well, we could, maybe if it helps get some people in there and buy plants, we could set up and do some kind of a live podcast
Oh, that'd
from
be
there.
cool. We could do
Yeah,
that.
and do that from on a Saturday afternoon, and we could either show them about the market, or they could see what a couple of clowns in person, we really are sometimes, and uh,
Yeah, I
and
know.
that, yeah,
Getting internet out there would be kind of interesting, but we could actually just film it and
yeah,
do
yeah,
a
you could,
clip, and we could actually put it on this show. So yeah, but yeah, that should be interesting. I'm looking forward to. I've never actually sold plants
uh,
at a market before, so to me it'd be kind
you,
of
you ought to
fun.
go. You ought to go down there Saturday morning and check it out. I'll probably go down and check it out. I'm going to be here this Saturday. I'm not taking anything down there. This 10-day cold stretch of weather kicked me back from having some plants ready. Wouldn't have had that many ready anyway, and so I think that our first appearance is going to be the first Saturday in May. There we should
Yeah.
have full
Yeah.
range of bedding
So
plants.
our Saturday market here on Crooked River Ranch, Tanya, is the first and third Saturdays of each month, and both Dale and I are kind of waiting out till May 1st, or the first one in May, um, to show up. And I will be bringing a camera, so it's not a very intimidating camera. I usually use a GoPro, and yeah, we'll just kind of capture what we can. But yeah, if you can come down and visit, we'd love to see you. Dale has got the table, and I can't afford the $5.
Yeah,
So I'm going to pot off of him and use his table and give him a couple plants to sell for me or something, but spend the day with him or whatever. It'd be fun. I think we just get a lot of laughs and chuckles, and we might learn a lot of new things too. So I'm looking forward to that.
my wife runs that whole show. I'm nothing more than a delivery boy and everything. So
That's why we're
that just
celebrity boys. That's right.
makes my life so much easier. Celebrity boy, and my wife will be over there hollering at me, "Get over here and unload some plants or something like that." Um, so I mean, I've done so many of those things. It's crazy, and I'm perfectly happy to do that job. That's May
Wow.
14th.
So
Yeah,
the market on May
mm,
14th is free for you guys. That's cool. Oh, you're bringing chicks there too.
nice.
Yeah, in fact, everything's normal so far. Mick Arth, what the heck is it? McMicken or whatever. The people that have my chickens that I ordered. I can't remember the name of their plate. Anyway, they did a report report that some of their chickens they were not shipping out because some of the people that supply their chickens, one of them had some of this avian flu thing. However, normal chickens are fine. So I ordered. I mentioned on the last show that my Rhode Island Reds, the new ones I have coming in, are just fine. They'll be here next week, late next week. No, I guess it'll be 2 weeks. Anyway, so I'll be dealing with baby chickens. So
There you go.
haven't done that in 2 years, and but yeah, and then I'll start getting more stories about using our chicken shaw and moving our chickens around the property. And I'm looking forward to that. So we got this beautiful. I almost spent $1,000 to build this darn chicken shaw, and it's just sitting there. So it's time for it to go to work. So, but anyway, the other thing I was going to report is for this crazy week of bad weather, snow every day, and all that stuff. I did manage to get more lettuce planted. So I've got about almost a dozen lettuces on the floating rafts, hydroponics in the greenhouse, and they're doing fine. And I did use the heater again, so I am holding the water at about 69 degrees. And
Good.
my spinach on the NFTs, which are outside hydroponics, are doing great. can't
Okay.
believe it. I mean, like spinach is pretty hardy stuff. So anyway, that's kind of the newest things of I go out every day. In fact, you'll see in our videos, you'll see me checking almost every day of like, all right, did the spinach survive this day? Because every day I go out, everybody watch my videos, the dogs run out the door and I go, hey, welcome to Ranger Rob and all that. Is it a sparkling day or not? And every day has been snow. A little bit of
Yeah.
snow on the ground. Now it goes away in about 2 hours, but anyway, and it's like I don't know how those spinach are living through that. So
Well, I mean,
yeah.
you got some good root zone heat there, and I sent you a sheet the other day. It was talking about yields and plants and
Yep.
seeds and
Saw
everything else
that.
like that. Yeah, spinach is gonna. It looks like it takes you. What's it say? Spinach takes you an ounce of seeds or plants per 100-foot row. That seems pretty steep, but to get that one going. But what's the yield on it here? And of course, then I completely dropped my stuff. Spinach, that's gonna 100-foot row is gonna yield you 40 to 60 pounds, and their average
Wow.
suggestion uh, amount per person is 4 to 10 pounds of spinach a year,
Wow.
or per growing season. I guess that's a hell of a lot of spinach
Yeah. Well,
for
yeah, I was
one
getting
person.
concerned about spinach, and so I told you I did the water and a peroxide trick to get them to germinate,
Right,
and it
right.
and it worked. And so now I've got tons of spinach on my propagator, which is what I use before the plants go out to the hydroponics. And I moved some of those plants to regular pots, 3-inch pots. So I've got 24 of those going. So now I've got like 50 spinach plants. I mean, they really germinated.
Well, that's an early season crop. I'm the same way, and you talked about lettuce, and one of the things we're going to have at the farmers markets are going to be these some 8-inch lettuce bowls. Some are in peat pots and some are in plastic and everything like that. We're stuffing them in. We're putting about 4 of the peat pellet starts of lettuce in there, and then we'll probably do some singles. The only lettuce I grow is a leaf lettuce, a salad mix. That's all I bother with. I don't do any head lettuce or anything like that, mainly because of the fact your leaf lettuces and the mixes like that, you can just keep shaving them all off, and you can keep eating those things until they finally bolt away for the summer and everything. I probably got 200 of those out here that I got to figure out what I'm going to do with. So
I planted a whole 4x8 above ground with lettuce rows, and I don't know if they're going to come up with this weather we've had this week. So
I've got these plugs. Essentially, I call them just a big plug. We used to use smaller plugs in the flower uh, business, and so we use these plugs. And I'll plant a whole half a bed probably into lettuce, maybe more. It's going to bolt off, but the chickens will eat it. We shave it off, and then the quail, they come walking through our backyard 2 or 3 times a day. And if I have enough lettuce or some other type of something like that that they seem to like, maybe they'll stay away from the tomatoes, and probably won't because just of the way they happen to forage. And they'll
yeah,
just peck a couple of holes in the tomato and then decide they don't want it and walk on.
yeah. So one thing I was going to bring up in this show is I'm going to kind of switch a little bit over to prepping and things that homesteaders are doing. And before we got on, I was noticing on Crooked River Ranch they have this meeting. Crooked River Ranch is an association too, which is our homeowners. And so they had a meeting today and yesterday about a couple of different organizations like the Jefferson County housing, all this different kind of things, road construction. Anyway, they were talking about secondary homes, which is what's the terminology they were using for that?
Well, a secondary home, it's ADU, is
ADU.
additional dwelling unit. And it's a set of parameters that counties and planning departments set up that allow people possibly to develop an additional living unit on their property. And that unit could be for family. You could rent it out or you could do something like that. And so as long as this whole thing fits in with code and zoning and everything else, it's a pretty good deal for people. Outside of the fact that construction is outrageously expensive, and if you're going to do if you're going to do an add-on like that, you're going to spend half as much or maybe more than half of what you would building a new dwelling. But I don't know. They say those are allowed out here, but I mean, every third house has some type of an RV with somebody living in it here
Yeah.
on a ranch. So it doesn't make a hell of a lot of difference, really. And there again. So I mean, if people want to do it,
Yeah.
they can. I'm not
A
one
reason
to.
it kind of caught my eye is when I was going around to different areas, looking for my first Idaho pasture pigs and stuff. I went to one place over in the west side, and he had a little cabin type thing that they fixed up for Airbnb.
Hmm.
And people, he was really, it's pretty good located because the airport's right there, not that far away, and to get to him is convenient. He was booked solid, actually, and he says it's been one of the best secondary incomes they've ever had. And then I met another person, I can't remember who it was, that have an Airbnb also on their homestead. Once again, booked solid. And so it caught my eye. I'm going, well, what a nice, if you want to deal with people, and if you want to deal with the fact you got to clean the room after they leave and all that stuff, and deal with kids and dogs. If you have that patience, I'm not sure if I got it. Um, what a nice secondary income, dear Lord. And then
It
Airbnb pretty much handles the whole transaction. So that's kind of nice.
Yeah, they're usually ran through a third party vendor or application set up like that. You know, there are a lot of them here on Crooked River Ranch. I mean, I'm sure there's a dozen or more. Technically, they're not allowed by HOA law or rule or whatever set of ridiculous guidelines that they choose to govern us by here sometime and everything. So I don't, but that's not, I mean, to the people that are doing it, right on. I mean,
Yeah.
if you can make some extra money off your own personal asset like that, you're not, you know, causing any problems in the neighborhood or whatever. You ought to be able to do whatever you want to do with it and everything. And I mean, it's a significant amount of money. I mean, if you're getting, a place that's renting out for 150, $200 a night, yeah, it don't take you too long to come into that. And that's just kind of another um, way that you can get some money off of real estate, and it's not a complex rental type of a situation. You don't get somebody in there that trashes your place and then decides they don't want to pay in. They're going to stay there forever and like that. So, with the transitory nature of an Airbnb like that, these people are in and out in a day, and as long as they're not throwing beer and whiskey bottles out in the road, they can probably pretty much do what they want. And also, yeah, it's an interesting concept. It
Yeah.
definitely is.
But everything comes up for every action, there's a reaction, to keep that in mind. But
Exactly.
I did actually do research because I have a big fifth wheel. And so I'm thinking, why can't you do that with a fifth wheel? And you can. Airbnb does accept fifth wheels.
Okay.
So, and I think what Crooked River Ranch was talking about is no more than 900 square feet. So, if you want to do a tiny home or something like that on your property, sounds like it's possibility. And they were talking about the fact that some people the Airbnb possibly are okay on the ranch. So anyway, well, I think you have to register it and go through the proper channels, but,
Or
so
you can
don't
just keep
hold me
you
to that though.
no,
What's
you
that?
can just keep doing it until you get caught. They send you a letter and
That's
tell you
right.
something otherwise, and then
That's
then you
right.
can decide if you want to keep doing it, if it's worth it, and
Yeah,
you go on for there.
I
A
had to
hell of a
laugh.
lot. It's a lot easier to beg forgiveness and plead stupidity. And
Yeah.
they take one look at me, that's a legitimate claim and everything right there.
Yeah.
Uh, rather than try to go into something and, get ahead of them. Of course, if
Yeah.
they
I
decide
also,
to do it, they're going
before
to
I
attach
forget, I
a
want to
fee
say
to it.
say thank you to Tanya for being here. She has to go out and feed her baby
Feed the
goats.
new goats. There you go. Thanks,
Yep.
Tanya.
So anyway, so the point is that's another way of thinking about doing secondary income. But please think about the consequences. I wouldn't want someone trashing my fifth wheel. They may bring some irritation little dog over, and I've got two big dogs, and that may not go well. And then the fact that once they leave, you got to take care of the sheets and all that stuff and clean up. And it's like, do you really want to deal with that or not? So you got to weigh it. So, but yeah, it was just kind of interesting. That conversation they had on the ranch kind of caught my eye about that because I was just looking into it. So,
Well, I mean,
um,
that kind of came up, because that was the county commissioner meeting that they do. I think they hold it 2 or 3 times a year out here at the ranch. And I'm going to keep talking because I froze up. I'm assuming something's going to
oh, you're doing all right. I think you're
cut.
okay.
Okay. Anyway, now I kind of lost my train of thought.
That's
People
a pro.
don't people don't get old. Just stay like 40
Well,
forever.
look at the right side. When we do a show, even if we repeat ourselves, it's a new show to you and I.
Oh yeah, yeah. No, that's a great idea. Why didn't I think of that sooner? Type of a thing.
um,
So
well, I do have another question for you. Have you been out shopping or stuff in the last week? Anything interesting in the stores or anything? Have you noticed?
um,
Far as
no, I
inventory, as far as shortages?
seem to be pretty normal. We went out, did a little top off run here. I'll be going to town tomorrow. I don't think I'm grocery shopping. I got a computer in the shop that I've got to get back out and everything. So I looked at gas when we went through town the other day. Seems to be pretty stable. So I don't think what I have heard, and from some of the people that I follow, some I pay, some I don't to follow with them, is that basically what was the metric they were using? They follow 20 different shipping channels, and one channel in particular was a 52-foot dry box freight loads and everything, which is a substantial amount. That a lot of groceries and everything else would come in there. And he says those orders for those types of units have dropped 27% in the last week and everything. So there's something going on out there in the shipping industry right now. There again, it'll take 30 to 60 days for that to show up in most distribution channels, but that's a 27% drop in those orders is pretty significant. And
Yeah.
these guys expect it to kind of continue on.
Wow. Um, and this was actually this next question I wanted to bring up is I was watching Appaloosa Appalachian
Appalachian
Homestead.
Homesteader.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, she brought up a good subject today, and she was like going out and about shopping and all that stuff. And she says everybody was really nice. She goes to go to the store. People were very helpful. They were pleasing and asking about nice things. And it's like she was like just shocked. She goes, it was just a beautiful day. It was like she was being reminded by God that that people do have good sides to them and stuff. So it got me to thinking, it's like, what's your general feelings in Central Oregon about people's attitudes here? Can you sum it up as a stereotype, or is it all over the place? Do we find people in Central Oregon more friendly, or is that changing a little bit? What's your general feelings about that subject?
It's an interesting subject and everything, and I'm probably not the best guy to really address it definitively in any way because I'm not a recluse, but I don't go out of my way to seek large groups of people or a lot of contact with people other than the ones I come to have contact with in business, small amounts of business and everything like that. I think there's been a definite attitude change and shift over the last couple of years, given all the political divisions and issues and everything else we have in our country. I know my attitudes have changed completely, and I mean, I've went from somebody who was slightly prepared to being somebody who is pretty much completely prepared right now. And the fact that I've kind of scaled back my expectations and plans for what we were going to do this summer. But generally, the people I encounter seem to be, of pretty good humor and countenance like that. I don't know if they say that about me or anything, because
Just because you're a cranky ass.
yeah, I'm just a cranky old man, and I answer to "Hey asshole" a lot better than I do my own name sometimes,
Yeah, I
and
know that.
everything. And so it is. I've just seen the change overall in people, and I mean, we're never going back to the way it was. These are adaptive changes that we're going to have to adapt ourselves to. And I think everybody's just got to really watch their own mental health and keep themselves going on a straight line. Because while the last couple of years have been challenging, the next couple are going to be off the scale as far as challenging
Yeah.
and everything else like that. So, if you think it's going to get you, we're at the worst of this yet. No, we're not even close.
Yeah.
Throw out your baseline expectations, throw out normal expectations. Make sure you're providing for yourself and your family, um, and that's going to have to be people's focus a lot because if the whole distribution system and everything else starts, it's nothing. There's minor problems out there right now. There's expense. There's nothing. But if some of these things come to pass, people are and there again, we're kind of riding along in this thing. Not much going to happen the next 2 or 3 months, but I mean, exponentially, this stuff's going to kind of start growing every month, and then it's going to be a problem.
Yeah. And I think what kind of brought me to kind of keep thinking about it is if nothing really changes beyond like what it is today, I think we'll all be all right. But if it really does get as deep and hard and shortages and when it comes to people like getting baby formula and they can't get it, or um, and things get real tight or they can't feed when the when a mother and father can't do something for their children, they can be deadly. They could
Yeah,
be problems. And that's, I mean, who wouldn't? I mean, if
yeah,
somebody was messing with my daughter or my son, I'd be dangerous. I just see red. and um, so imagine if it's, you can't get Similac and people are hoarding stuff or, um, your neighbors are well prepared and you didn't, or for whatever reason is how much of this will bring the dark side of people out. Even the friendliest, the God fearing people, when they can't feed their children or they can't survive or make their house payment or something like that, they the human condition kicks in, and so it's a scary, scary thought of that. But um, and I kind of, you kind of look at our community, and I think it'll definitely happen here, um, in a different kind of scale when you compare it to what the heck would it be like to live in a city, and people
yeah.
couldn't eat, and people couldn't get water, and people couldn't get food, or they had to go into rationing and stuff. What's life going to be like, and are we as and conservatives, I'll say we're conservatives, are the worst because we are patient people. We don't like confrontation. That's why we've been walked on so bad by the Democrats, you might say. Um, and so when it gets tough, everybody, you're going to have to change your mental attitude about people and how to deal with them, and understand that um, you know not everybody's intent's going to be good if they're hungry.
Yeah.
And so, anyways, this is a real interesting subject. And the fact is in 90 days or so, we could be facing a lot of this kind of stuff. And how will people react and behave? That'll be really scary to think about.
Well, it'll certainly be interesting, and I mean and it is definitely scary to think about. And I think that underscores, some of the stuff that we've talked about on here quite a bit. Making sure you're prepared, making sure you have the ability to defend those preparations and your personal security in here. Because and we've talked about this. You'll see this out on all the prepper sites. I'm prepping for a solar flare. I'm prepping for this. I'm prepping for that. That doesn't make a bit of difference. You should just be prepping in general,
Yeah.
not worried about any one specific instance or something like that, because you start breaking those things down and classifying them and everything else, it just becomes this unmanageable thing that you really can't prep for anything. So you just go on, and I think probably my personal thing, and we've talked about this, is I still think we're facing multiple geopolitical events of some kind domestically. possibly internationally as well. I mean, obviously the domestic ones are going to be the ones that are going to affect us the most and cause us the most trouble and everything. But I think we could see things that we never could think of happening possibly in the next 6 months. I worry about the stability of the U.S. government and everything else that would come along with that, and all the manipulation that goes on out there with the medias and all. And I just, people need to make sure they're prepared and that they're able to take care of themselves and their own. Um, Basically, if we get to the point where those food shortages are causing people to start having those kind of behaviors, we're in a big world of hurt at that point
Yeah.
in time.
And, it's kind of interesting. When I lived in Arizona, one of the things that we were always concerned about, in fact, even FEMA was preparing for it, is if there was a disaster in California for
Hmm.
earthquakes or something like that, how many people would be coming from California and bleeding into Arizona because it was right next door, right? And so they've actually have plans and preparations down in Arizona to accommodate people coming over from some kind of disaster or something as an emergency. Now imagine here, let's say we got the Cascadia. Let's say we have some disaster in the west side happen, tsunami, whatever, and people had to abandon their homes and stuff, and they migrated away from the west side. Guess where they'd be coming? Right here. I mean, over.
Possibly, possibly Central Oregon's not the easiest place in the world to get to. And everything based upon, I mean, you can get here, if you, in that influx at ICU, and I, believe me, I've thought about this before. I mean, what are you going to do? Have a whole bunch of people all of a sudden decide they're going to come over the Santiam Pass there through the canyon and everything else like that? We already saw how quickly and easily you can stop the flow of traffic through the canyon that way based upon those fires a couple of years ago and everything else. And yeah, you would have this massive amount of people. So the infrastructure to handle those people, both on the way over here and once they get here, simply does not exist. And obviously they're fleeing something that's a problem. And your analogy there being California, I mean, what's the LA basin have? 14 million people or something like that in it. It's insane to think that I mean, you can't move 1,000 people efficiently around on these highways and everything else. And so, yeah, if they were fleeing something like that, they would end up over here. And I mean, that's another whole nother level of this concept. I mean, somewhere out there, somebody, these preppers have probably got a flow chart that's 5 feet tall and 3 feet wide and everything with all these different possible scenarios listed on it. And then you could write a book about each one of those scenarios and everything, and you could still completely miss your own target.
Yeah, it was like, you know, um, you could prep all you want, and maybe we have to deal with a nuclear problem.
Yeah,
What do you have to protect yourself on that? I mean, you could prep all you want, and most likely, if you're in the wrong place at the wrong time, you may
that's
have
it.
fallout hit in your area. And who all has proper gear to handle that, and things like that. So it's just you can't plan for it all,
No,
and
you can't.
that's the
That
point.
was all a bunch of theater, they put out there, and that we can thank that TV show that was on a while back, where they
Oh yeah,
said go
doomsday
out and
something.
go out and find the stupidest possible people you can that call themselves preppers, and we'll make a TV show out of it. And I mean,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
admit I choked that down a couple of times, but after that, it was just like, no, this is what it is. It's theater. You could list all the problems that you could possibly face, and prepping and trying to size up for individual problems is not going to work. You're going to have to be prepared for a multitude of different things, and you're going to have your head on a swivel and seeing which way the wind's blowing politically, see which way it's blowing economically, and make your own decisions. Don't wait for somebody, particularly anybody in mainstream media, which is just nothing but dramatic theater. Um, make your decisions for you. I mean, do your own research, know what you have a year's worth of food, have 5 to 6 months worth of cash or barterable goods available, be able to defend it. I mean, these are pretty basic principles because I think if any of us sat down and said, let's write all this stuff up on a whiteboard. What is the wildest possible problem you think we could run into? And I mean, you'd have 300 things up there, and you wouldn't know which one to go for.
Yeah. I want to bring up one more subject, and I want to make sure we give you enough time to talk about it. As you and I kind of brief ourselves before we start a show, things that kind of caught our eye. And one of the reports you just caught, and I saw it, but I haven't watched it, is the latest report is there's a 40% increase in adult deaths. Why
Yeah,
is that?
well, okay, I found this out on the website, and it's a respected website. It's Dr. Chris Martinson. In fact, there's a live webinar going on right now. I think on that website, it's peakprosperity.com. The man is he's obviously a PhD. He's a data-driven person. He has all this data to back up, and he says that there is a 40% increase in adult deaths, and based upon some of the anecdotal stuff I've seen out there, there's a lot of people dying that shouldn't be dying right now. And when you look at that, it's like, why? Is there a correlation here? Is there something like that? A 40% increase in adult deaths, regardless of the age brackets that they're in, is a pretty serious thing. And it's coming from somewhere. And all this. And I mean, I think I looked at that and I thought, this is a terrible statistic, and if this thing is backed up, this is horrible and everything. So you don't know a whole lot about, I have my own personal opinions as to where it's coming from. Friend of mine, 63 years old, dropped dead heart attack last week and everything. And there was some complicating factors in his health right before that happened, and they were come from one source as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
So that's it's a scary process. That's a huge number. If that was able to be quantified and put out there, I mean, that'd be a whole story in itself.
Thank you. I wanted to catch Homestead from Australia. It was nice to have him here. He's gonna head up, but he's gonna go through the replay. Yes, we got a lot of stuff in the front of this show that just talks about pretty much what he was just talking about on the 40% increase of possibilities of what's causing it. Have you heard any other data about the subject?
I haven't heard any other data. I do have connections in the funeral industry and everything, and there's nothing happening with my connections that really reflect that. It's pretty consistent rate that they're involved in and everything. But I just you look at these things and some of the stuff that you see out there, in particular the amount of blood clots and cardiac problems and some of this other stuff. And I think if a person looks at it and you do the research back, you can probably connect the dots pretty easy on this thing.
So do you think it's tied into stress levels? Do you think it has to do with the COVID situation? Or
I absolutely think this has everything in the world to do with the injections that these people took in the good faith assumptions that this was going to be good for their health. And
that's my biggest concern too. It's like we just don't know exactly what's in there, and we don't have history to go say whether this was safe or not. But I'm on the same page with you, and I also think, once again, guys, at the beginning of the show, we're talking about a show that's called Watching the Water, and I put a link down in the description, talks about the subject. Whether it's actually on target or not, I'm not sure, but it certainly brings up new ways of looking at the situation, and I just think that's good, that everybody should be open-minded to hear all the different concepts and theories out there, to try to realize what's going on. And it seems like things are so weird that I'm getting to a point, is like, I think too simple. I just like, I can't believe that a whole bunch of people would do something like what's on that video, to hurt others or try to do anything against our population or anything. But I can't think that evil. I just can't
Well,
think that evil.
and see, you can't, Rob. That exactly right there is the thing. You and I and our viewers that are sitting here and everything, we don't look at things in that context. And so for us to try and frame whatever is going on within the context of our own moral compasses and and what we believe and everything. And I'm like you, I read some of this and I'm like, that's some bad shit. That just possibly that can't possibly be true.
I
And then
know.
you dig a little further, and it is, and it's actually happening and everything else like this. And the internet, for as evil as it is, also provides us with all kinds of research opportunities. And you can find this stuff out for yourself and everything as to what's going on. And you got to get away from, and I just look at it and some of this stuff, I says, there is just no way this can possibly be real. This can't be happening.
I know.
These people can't be this evil. If they are, they should be dealt with and everything. And so it's kind of like, my family has been involved in the fire department, police, and stuff like that. It's just like you can't think the same way that those people do. So that's why we cannot understand what the end game, what the exit strategy, what's the end result of this all going to be, and these means that we're using to justify the ends has got me pretty puzzled, really.
Yeah. Now, have you caught wind of any of this Elon Musk picking up Twitter?
Oh yeah, I've been following that one all the day. I'm a Twitter guy, man. I'm on there and everything else. And the only thing I look at, it's the only way I can get my voice out there, especially. And it's hilarious. The man walks up, and he slaps 48 billion dollars down on the table for this thing that probably has no physical assets whatsoever, and then he starts this whole basic shitstorm inside there and everything.
That's
I think
great.
it's awesome. I think
Yeah,
it's great.
it's like Sherry and I were talking about. It's like so nice to see someone that's well to do, that tends to be, doesn't have to be conservative. It can be kind of in the middle, but does
Yeah,
appreciate our Constitution of free speech and stuff, and stepping up and saying that I'm fighting this. I'm going to do something. Here's my threat.
yeah. I'm gonna take your company over, and I'm gonna fire every one of you censor woke people in there, and we're just gonna let this thing be a free for all like it should be,
Yeah,
and
and free
everything.
for all, and even like this show, we're talking about some sensitive things. So I'm using code words, and I
Yeah. Well, it's the same thing. Twitter's got my algorithms. They know my style of writing and everything else. But,
Mhm.
a couple of asterisks here and there, and you can completely fool their algorithms and everything. I mean,
Oh yeah,
I'm probably baked for saying that right now, but I mean,
and
it,
no, I mean
no, you
people talk
can.
about
I mean, you can post something and they'll put their little sign up there. Most people on here don't like this. Are you sure you want to post this? And I'll go back in, I'll pull a couple of O's out, I'll throw an at symbol in there and everything else. Hit it again, she goes right through. You know,
oh yeah,
so I mean, it's just, and
well
if
this
they
is
want to, free speech is good. And if the man wants to put up $48 million, I tell you, if I'm a Twitter shareholder and I've got a big payday coming because of my shares in there, you better be selling that thing.
yeah, and
Or
anyway,
we're
it's
going to
like
get a new board of directors.
we I just can't get over the fact that we grew up knowing that if there's something you don't like, you turn the channel, you turn it
Yeah,
off. It's like, how hard is that the responsibility as an adult to do? It's like, why does everybody like want to stop it or block it and things that oppose their opinion? It's like if it had something to do with Middle East and the way they think is a lot different, I would prefer to be able to go over there and understand how they think so I can
right.
understand what I'm seeing and why they're acting the way they are. But, if you block all that stuff, how are we supposed to understand other people's cultures and ideas and how do we understand even evil people and the way they think if you cannot expose yourself to how their thought process works? And so we're just hurting ourselves with censorship. And so
Oh, big time.
yeah, and we just need to grow up, put on our big boy pants, and or and understand that if there's something you don't like, just switch to the next show.
Yeah, just walk on by, just move along. There's something else out there and everything. And some of these people, they get wound up in it, and they use a
Oh my gosh.
tremendous amount of brain power in this thing. Okay, they probably got more brain power to spare than I do to begin with. And as I age, it seems like it gets even more. And I'm not going to waste a whole lot of this brain power on some outrageously far-fetched idea or some guy trying to ram this stuff down my throat and everything. I'll just say, that's extremely screwed up, and I'm just not going to go with it. And and I think, and we both said this. I don't understand how these people think or what their thought processes are, or what their end game is. I mean, usually there's money or drugs or illicit activities and everything else that goes along with all this stuff. So I don't know what their reward or their end game is, but the way they're getting there is not very good, and people are falling for it, and they just need to sharpen up a little bit.
Yeah, it's just so hard to believe there's so many lemmings out there.
Oh, it's just like kind of really, you got to do some research here, people, and everything. But in mainstream media, it's nothing more than theatrical productions. They sit around and it's like, here's a list of stories. We're going to throw them all up. Make sure you get these words and phrases in these stories. Be back here, at noon for the noon meeting, and the editor will tell you what you're going to say. That's a theater production.
I think one of the biggest things that's changed with media is because they have to use social media. It's not just the television network show that anymore. It's more about also the social clicks. So it's like, what can we do to get someone perturbed enough to click on our story? And
well, sure. And the fact is they're not used to a two-way conversation, and there's a lot more two-way conversations taking place. And I mean, if you're going to throw a bunch of crap at me and expect me to believe it, the chances of me tuning you out are extremely easy, because my BS filter is going to go off.
Yep.
And I'm not going to put up with that type of thing. And it's just, the older I get, I guess the more cynical I get about these things. I just don't know. If I don't see it, and nobody is going to take a story and manipulate it, craft it, and this is kind of like your 6th grade reader book or something. Dissect the story and see what these people are telling you right now. That would help a lot of them
out. Yeah. Before we close up here, we're almost done, but I did want to mention one thing today. I had to get gas for my truck, and luckily so I even got 30 cents off of my Safeway card, and I only got 25 gallons. It cost me for my truck in diesel $127.
Yeah, that's a standard fill up now.
I was holding my heart on the way out of the parking lot. It was that sick. I was like, dear Lord. But
and that was kind of a little flux that bounced up and down. Who knows where that's going to go? That was a little bit of a distraction. Something was going on there. Now people are not focusing on that. Our president is using wordsmithing stuff. Where's this going to go next? Hold on, people.
So, guys, we got to wrap up our show. I want to thank everybody who's been in and out on our chat, and a lot of our people get us on the replay. So, if you'd like to, we try to shoot for Thursdays at 6 p.m. Pacific time. We'd love that if you're interested in maybe even visiting us or being on the show, especially if you want to talk about homesteading and prepping and all that kind of stuff, give us a holler. We'll see if we can get you on. We'd love to make your day and have a great discussion. And people always bring some great discussions to the board. So we appreciate that. So with that in mind, thank you very much for watching. You guys have a great week. And we'll talk to everybody next Thursday. Bye now.
See y'all. Thank you.
Thank you very much for watching our video. Please take the time to like, subscribe, and share our videos all over the whole wide world. Thanks.